Yay, it works. Hello, everyone. Welcome back. This is Anchore, and the open source team are here to do some work in front of a live studio audience. No, not a studio. We have three members of the team here today. We've got Chris, Alex, and Keith, and maybe more who will join us later. We just don't know. A couple of links to let you know where to find us. If you go to anchor.com/open source, you can find links to some of the stuff there. You'll also find everything over on GitHub. If you go to github.com/anchor, all crikey, lots of repositories full of wonderful open source software. And we've got a discourse now, and if you jump on our discourse, you can follow along, join the conversation, and here we've got the post for today's stuff that we want to do. Anyone got anything they need to mention before we dive in? Nope, all good? Sweet. I assume this works. Let me just fix one thing, which is they won't be able to hear you until I press that button. That worked. That was close. Could have gone on for minutes without them being able to hear you. That would have been terrible. So I had a chat with I think Will earlier in the week, and they said they wanted this one put at the top, and I don't know if that was a conversation they wanted to have or you guys were aware of this. So I'll pick that one first, and we can make a decision about whether we can do this with Chris not here. Up to you. Sorry, Will not here.
This was actually me suggesting.
Oh, was it you? I thought it was Will. Oh, okay.
No, that's fine. The long and the short of it is, this contributor is trying to add a subcommand to the Grype DB to query the database, just give it a CVE and get back some information from it. And I mean, it seems pretty useful to me, but I definitely wanted to get the whole team's feedback there. And a bigger question I had was, is there, like, it's one thing to have a command and give it an identifier like a CVE or a GHSA number and get back like all the matching rows or something. Are there any other types of queries that this would be like a better general query, like Grype DB query, something or other? That's kind of the gist of my question for the team, and how, if anybody thought we should maybe go that direction or get this in as it is, or etc.
So yeah, this is very timely. We're working on the right now drafting up the Grype DB v6 schema, and as part of that work, it's actually a lot of different changes, and it's so different. It changes the layout so much that what's probably going to be landing with this work is a subcommand in Grype. At least that's going to be the upcoming proposal. The subcommand in Grype is like Grype DB query, and what that was going to be on that command is up in the air, but it's the same kind of vein as what it sounds like this is searching for. It's just like, I want to be able to get useful data for a particular CVE out of the database without having to know the specifics of the schema. And
it's already an issue and a pull request in flight for that, or is it currently in discussion, or where's that?
It's right now in backlog. So it's like me and Weston are working on a lot of the details for the schema itself. Mm-hmm. And that plays into like us being able to design the software appropriately. So so we haven't even gotten to the software design yet. That would include the query subcommand and all the stuff that comes with it. So in short, yeah, we should definitely do this. I think the goal of such subcommand would be so that the output is stable regardless of the database schemas. Because when this came up in the past, like it was like, well, we would just kind of output what we have today. So why not just use SQLite? Like here's a SQLite command. And now that we're making big breaking changes to the schema, and the schema is getting like a little more complicated, we want to like use it as a facade. So like, well, for future schemas that come through, we just want to we want to have like basically a schema of its own, like a JSON schema for this query output, and it's not coupled to the database schema. Okay, I'll stop talking. That's where at least the DBV6 schema work was going to be, proposing, and this sounds like it's got a lot of overlap with that.
Definitely so. And so this, I guess there's, when you're talking about querying the database, there are two sides to it, right? Like number one, what's the information I'm getting out? And number two, what's the information I'm supplying to, to narrow down the results. And this one is very specific to, I have an identifier and I just want to use that identifier to query by. And I feel like that's probably something that would translate to, pretty well on the input side of things to any, DBV6 work also. Like I've got a CVE, I've got a GHSA, like that's the identifier I'm looking for. And then on the other side, I think, I have to go back and look at this one, but it's, I think he's looking for the packages that are included that match that particular ID. But I mean, I could definitely see some other information people would want to see. And I mean, to me, I would love if there was some sort of a path forward where we could get this in today, and like you said, kind of it doesn't need to change from the user standpoint when the DBV6 is implemented, and they just can continue to get the stuff there. So, I mean, if you've got any suggestions, feel free to chime in here. But I was kind of thinking along the lines of something like, give it maybe fields. So like package name and you give it a number of fields, and those are the things you're going to get out. Maybe a description, maybe whatever else. I think it could this PR could be very narrowly scoped to the specific thing that the contributor is looking for, perhaps. But from the command perspective, maybe you give it field package name or something, and then like a query of ID equals the thing or something along those lines. So that's kind of like where I would think to go with this particular one, but certainly happy to hear feedback if you think there's a particular path forward for this to get sort of done today.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, I feel like we could even get this in, but it would be okay if we break it or change the way that it works in the future. Break it meaning like we're expanding the functionality and we change the way that it works to like better suit the downstream purpose. Because like Grype is not stable yet. Like we can make those breaking changes. And I would say like, so I guess the TLDR is like, why not get this in and not couple this work here on this PR to the V6, because like we wouldn't know what to tell them, and I think it'd be a long process anyway. And in actuality, like getting something like this in, like thumbs up. Like so, like Keith, your suggestion of like by package name like sounds great. It might be like that there's other like indexes we might want to expose. Like someone might want to say, I have a specific CPE, or I have a specific Perl, or I have a specific, but like that doesn't really apply to the current like database anyway. It's really all package name. So like that could just be a change or addition we make in the future that might break this command, but would probably be okay because it's just making it better.
Right. I had a bit of a look through the issues to see if there were any existing ones, and I didn't really find much. I found one that I actually ended up putting in like quite some time ago when we added the distro flag. So if you're like doing like adding CPEs and you need to do the distro matching, the flag for that, we don't like you have to sort of look in the database to know what values to use there. So like there was a suggestion, hey, we should like have something that could query this. So I could easily see like a field, of distro being added as something, and it just sort of like automatically, dedupes the results that we get or something along those lines. But I guess, yeah, so if it sounds good to you to go down the path of maybe having some fields, and probably, and some inputs like ID or whatever, and we can break it later, then I can go ahead and sort of like shepherd this one in that direction. I'm happy to do that.
That'd be awesome.
I added one comment to the PR. I think the only thing that sticks out as like kind of weird to me is the query command. Query to me is usually associated with like you passing in like a SQL query or some kind of formal like domain specific language. Can we just do like db get to keep it simple? Like I'm just getting this ID.
Or find. How about like find maybe?
db find. Yeah, that's better. I hate to be like the nitpicker, but I just take kind of odds with the term query and how it's being used here.
Search.
I think search. I think it's hard. I would land on search out of all those. Grype DB search, and then I know you suggested adding flags and stuff. I think we just get rid of all the flags for it. Grype DB search, no flags. Put the ID. Keep it as simple as possible. That way we don't have any chance of breaking it in the future in the sense of flags, and we can start tacking things on as the design kind of grows. What do you think about just really zipping it down to its simplest feature?
I like it.
Yeah, the downside is that like it makes it seem like it's a text-based search, when in actuality we're just doing like select a couple of fields. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're basically talking about like the vulnerability ID or the package name, and so we would be searching, like taking that input, searching, doing both searches, and just raising up the results.
Search is a little overloaded in the sense that it sounds like it's doing more fields. Like Grype DB get seems like it should be associated with the primary key of being the ID. What was the other one we had? We had get, search, and
find.
I don't particularly like that one either. Find, that is.
It can like get, like I would like one, like it makes it feel like you should have like a subject to that. Like the subject would be one singular thing. It would be like get, and then like a vulnerability is what you pass. And like if it doesn't say that, and it's like I mean, so anyway, popping off the stack, but like Chris, your overall comment was like, well, what if we just like take away all flags? I mean,
yeah,
I'm okay with either way. I mean, if we're if we I mean, I'm definitely with you on the like change query to something else, like search makes sense. Yeah. But like on the flags one, like I'm a little torn. I can go both ways on that. Because I feel like we're just gonna break either way anyway. Like we're gonna,
sure.
If we have no flags, then we're gonna have like that argument mean multiple things, and in the future that's gonna semantically change to being like, no, there's these flags and there's gonna be one subject, and so it's like, I think if either way it's gonna break. So might as well just make the ideal CLI for like this use case, and then just break it in the future if we're okay with breaking it. So
cool. Okay, I trust Keith on the shepherding. Then I just wanted to take odds with the verb, and that was it.
Yeah, agreed.
Sweet. So do you need to like leave a reply, or is you just like put it on your to-do list and get on it? And
yeah, I just wanted the feedback from the team, and it's on my to-do list.
Nice. Sweet. Well done, everyone. One down. Not bad going. And the next one is this one. I don't know who added this. Oh, this. Who added the needs discussion? Did we put this in? That was a while back by the look of it. Needs investigation. I thought we had a. Did we not have a? This must have been added a while ago then, I guess.
I feel like we've talked about this multiple times.
I think so.
In the not too distant past. I think I saw a comment from Chris 2 weeks ago on this one, so maybe that was.
Yeah, that came from our live stream 2 weeks ago.
Oh, of course it was. Yes, you're right. Okay. Given that we've talked about that and we have a limited amount of time, let's pick that one. I think this might be another one actually.
We did, yeah, we definitely talked about this one last week, and I sort of had the itch to prototype something and have a thing for supporting this.
Henry Sachs is also in the audience right now, I think.
Oh, nice. Yeah, waved hello. So is there anything we can do to move this along, or is this something you're still working on?
I mean, we could certainly talk about it. I'll just kind of like give the 1 minute pitch here is that I think I came up with a reasonable approach to support multiple configuration files in a way that's like not too unexpected behavior, and like kind of works to support the use cases that I think people want to see. That's what I implemented here. I'm not saying that it's the right thing to do or the wrong thing to do necessarily, but I think it's a reasonable thing to do. And so if people like it, then we can kind of just like push this on forward. And I did end up, so this is basically a drop-in change to, this is one of our support libraries, Fangs, which Syft and Grype both use. And so it's basically a drop-in change to both of those with one tiny caveat. And I did test it out with Syft and Grype, and it does work exactly like advertised in them with this particular thing. The biggest like the biggest, I guess, point of, I don't want to say contention, but the biggest thing is like that we didn't necessarily know the best behavior for is if we have lists of things, there's the desire, and like the original ask here in the Grype issue from, I believe it was Henry, was to essentially merge lists of things, so lists of ignore rules together. And like, when do we do that versus like overriding those lists? So that is like, I had a particular thing that I think works okay, which is you have multiple configuration files that you can specify and profiles. Across the configuration files, things are appended. If you select a profile, it overwrites. And so like within profiles, they append. So like, it sounds, I think, a bit more confusing than it would be, than it actually ends up being in practice. But that's the gist of this. We definitely don't have to talk about it now. But
sorry, I'm talking into the muted mic. So let me make certain I understand the. So essentially, I could have multiple levels of configuration, and I can specify with the plus prefix that like I'm going to add to it. And if I don't do that, oh no, I already got it wrong.
No. The plus prefix was just a part of the suggestion. That's nothing to do with this at all.
Oh, okay. So like 51 is like part of 50. Like 50 makes some extra suggestions. Like 51 is not implementing.
Keith's comment on issue 50, where he talks about it, it was like 5 days ago. It starts with the sentence, "I thought about this for a bit." That seems to have, based on what I'm reading in the pull request, the clearest examples of what that pull request implements. Is that right, Keith?
Yeah,
like
that's
one,
right.
1, 2, and 3.
Yep.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Yeah, sorry, my silence was not wanting to contribute. My silence was reading the examples and trying to make sure I understood. I'll link this comment in the YouTube chat as well. Henry Stacks. So that's my issue, smile face. Yep. And then Henry, I posted the issue 50 with Keith's thoughts at the bottom of what he implemented, and then the comment right below that, the pull request, is what implements those 3 examples.
So Henry says, so what I would really need would be certain files with precedence over other without the user specifying them all as command line arguments. Just trying to elaborate a bit.
Gotcha. And this this pull request does that with the search list. So one of the things is that in across the tools, there's it searches for different configuration files like the .syft.yaml in your current directory, followed by like your home directory /.syft.yaml and like xdgers. And so there's a specific order that those get searched in. And today what it does, the first configuration file it finds, it stops and uses that. This PR adds a feature so that it uses that exact same search order, with highest precedence being the first thing it finds. and then lower precedence being the later types of things it finds. So for example, the current working directory .syft.yaml would have the highest precedence over a home directory .syft.yaml as it's implemented in this PR. With the also, like I said, with the caveat that like there's an appending behavior. So the things like and the appending also is with precedence. So for example, with the ignore rules, if it finds ignore rules in a local .syft.yaml, they're first in a list. If it finds ignore rules in a home.syft.yaml, they will be next in the list because it just follows the order of that it finds things as the precedence.
And so if we were like, let's say tomorrow this PR got merged and Syft and Grype were updated to use it, would users have to specifically do that -C format to get all of them, or it's kind of like a hand wavy behavior of now this new thing under the covers works where it does this search functionality of the ordering of them and also appends the ignore rules without any user flags or any kind of like user update to what they're doing?
Great question. And also, like, I want to be very clear that if we do that, it's kind of sort of a breaking change.
Right. That's what I was saying.
It would do that by default. They wouldn't have to do any of the -C stuff. It would pick up. There's actually a flag that you could disable that, but like as it's written, like I think with what Henry is asking for, like it would have to kind of do that by default, or it would kind of have to do that. So each file, like if a user had multiple files and previously it was just finding the first one, like now it would start to find all of them and do the multi-level configuration.
So I think that's, yeah, then my first comment is like inversing that flag of instead of someone opting out of it doing that, they have to opt in. They have to like pass a specific flag or put a specific thing in the config that allows it to know it's behaving the new path of the merging and appending instead of the old path of, there can be only one config, the Highlander model, which we have right now. People would have to opt in to doing the merging of the three, and they would, instead of the Highlander of one config is going to win, all the other ones do not matter. This is the one that we chose to win. So like if a user wants to use the merging, they can, but it doesn't just become the new default thing that gets shipped with the latest Syft or Grype that goes out.
I mean, we could definitely, that could be a way that it works. I think my preference would be to try to limit the configurability here, but as written, like they would have to opt in to the old behavior, but we could have it so that they had to opt in to the new behavior. But then that's, another flag or an environment variable or something or other that people probably wouldn't set by default.
So I have a question. If there is a new behavior to the way that these are being read, and you're going to read all of them if they exist, that becomes inconsistent with our other tools like Anchore CTL and Syft. Now, that should have a question mark at the end of that sentence.
This would be for Syft and Grype. So like our tools would be...
it would go on both. Okay.
Yes, this change would be for both Syft and Grype. But the other tools, like Anchore CTL, would not be affected by this change.
I wonder if that having a completely different behavior across tools. I don't know. Do any of the others Grant? There's another example. So it wouldn't affect Grant, and so I think it might be jarring to have a different search behavior for config in one tool than the others.
I mean, with a far enough vantage point, basically it's anything that's using Clio that is the tool we're making, Clio/Fangs, would get the merged behavior that we're talking about. I mean, I know this is you can think it looks like you turn it on or off, but like I feel like we would just kind of have it on, and so it probably would flow to Anchore CTL over time.
Right.
Like,
okay.
I mean, but like maybe I'm missing something. Because Chris, I think you had a draft PR open for like porting Clio and stuff over to. I don't have the latest state in my brain, but
no, it doesn't. It doesn't update us using Fangs and Clio in that repository. It's just some of the other more like external development tools. The other one's a larger lift to do.
Okay, so that's the block. So I lied. So
there's another comment from Henry who says opt-in via an environment variable would be totally fine for me, but my preference would be to be able to have this be the new default. I understand that would be kind of a breaking change, and it would be for both. So Henry is very happy with that. both tools. So do we have any actions out of this? Is it need more investigation, need more discussion, or need more Keith-based noodling on these pull requests?
But honestly, I think we are all head nodding to this direction. Like, so we're heading in the right direction, and like I think part of this is that we probably need to go hands to keyboard and try out like a Syft and Grype prototype with this stuff to really feel and try out some nuanced behaviors that this is describing, because I think it's be easier to try than to describe in a lot of ways. So I think that's what's missing, and then probably circling back on the Fangs PR and just adding comments there. And so I think everyone tell me if that feels wrong, but it sounds like we're probably in like thumbs up, we're in the right direction. This is probably the path with a follow up on the PR. Yeah, I think this looks great.
I like the behavior for sure. I just I have the 1.0-ness of Syft is just what's in my brain right now.
Yeah, no, and I'm saying that's good feedback for the PR, and I think we should be thinking about that category before we like try to merge it. But for me, like, I actually want to really try it. I want to kick the tires like on the keyboard first.
Yeah, it's one of those things that even when I was writing tests for this, it's like it's kind of makes my head hurt a little bit because of how, I mean, it's not even so much that this is non-obvious. It's just like, what is the right thing when I have like a bunch of different files that I'm trying to like, keep track of in my head. Like it is kind of like daunting a bit in some ways, but I think like what Chris, you said is that's the right question. And I did want to point out that like this PR does have like a configuration flag for specifically that behavior to like, does it inherit things or not? And so like we could definitely say for Syft when that thing, if it gets merged into Syft, and we could support the multiple -C, somebody could have to opt in with the like for the inheriting behavior with the environment variable, or add a flag for it or whatever else. But like, yeah, so it has that built in. I mean, that could like the very specific things, whether it's a CLI flag or whatever else, like could be ironed out later, but I did.
So yeah, a more meta CLI comment too is I've worked on tools that have both of these models, like the inheritance of combinatorial config and the Highlander. There can only be one. Here's the path we found it at. As a power user, I like the former. As a developer, I like the latter. So it's like I understand like why this is the way it is.
Nice.
Yeah, I'll foreshadow that like I have a tool coming up that like definitely needs this like profile support. So I'm stoked.
I have a further question, a process question. You said about like doing a test build and trying this out and seeing what how it works and what the behavior's like. And is that something in the past that you've done and shared binary builds and asked people, why don't you try this out? It's a test build, or it's a beta of a coming release, or do you just do that internally, and if people want to grab the pull request and build it themselves, you could tell them how to do that? What do you normally do there?
Yeah, I like the last comment you said. I usually just leave like really detailed instructions in the PR. Like, if you want to do this, build this here. Here are 3 configs that you can put at this path, this path, this path, and you can run it by running this. And here's the output you should expect. do you like this? Thumbs up, thumbs down. What are your comments? Any other kind of mechanism of doing like a side channel, here's a preview build, or like putting it somewhere else, just like pulls it away from the mainstream of people who are actually concerned about it, which is on the issue, following it and talking about it.
Okay, cool. There's a follow-up couple of questions. Oh, sorry. Did you want to carry on with a follow-up answer?
Yeah, I had one little tag on. I tend to just say like, here I got the PR over here. I use Go Workspace, so like the Go Work command to like pull in those changes, and I just do Go Run in the Syft repo or Go Run in the Grype repo. It's a really great ad hoc way to like pull in a branch from a dependency without having to affect like the Go mod or anything like that. It just kind of works. That's like seems to be the easiest way. But like another way that we is that I don't think we have. I don't think we're doing this today. But like we make snapshot builds on PRs, and so it could just be that we could upload builds as assets on for those workflow runs in GitHub Actions. So like basically all you do is make a draft PR that is using the right Go modules, and you point people to that workflow run saying download the asset from here. So we haven't done that for a while.
Solution it's basically document it, and I guess. Henry's got a few more follow-up points. 2 follow-up questions. Henry was very keen on the new Java cataloging, and sorry for being annoying on that PR. You're never annoying, Henry. Don't worry about it. When will the new version of Syft be released with the new cataloging, and when will Grype support it? Is the answer when it's ready, or is there...
I mean, what? Oh, I think it's like with all that got merged, right?
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And Henry, thank you very much for testing, by the way. It's not annoying at all. Absolutely a help to yeah, it's merged. So, I mean, in theory, we could release it whenever. I was thinking about cutting a release today, because I think the sooner that gets out, the better. But yeah, but more or less any time now.
Sweet.
Yeah, I mean, just for context, like we usually do releases, like if we haven't done one in a couple of weeks, we tend to cut one with the features that we have. So like, yeah, like Keith said, just cut a release.
When was the last one? It wasn't that long ago, was it?
Last week, yeah. So I mean, we're about time.
Yeah. Nice. Cool. Henry is very pleased with these responses. Are we done on that topic, or anything else to cover there?
I think we're good.
There's another one down here, the Bitnami one. I think we've already discussed this quite a bit, but yeah, we had some questions that we haven't had responses to yet.
Yeah, we did, I think, discuss this one, and I think we have a path forward.
Right.
I think this one was this one, should this be in ready and not a needs discussion anymore?
I think so. I think it's ready, and we don't need a needs discussion. I agree.
Sweet. Someone want to tag that while I pick the next one?
I got it. We're done. It's in ready and removed to label.
There's 2 extra ones down the bottom here. How much time have we got? Oh, we've got loads of time. Have we discussed this for a bit? When was the last time we left a comment on this one? 4 days ago. Okay, so yeah, we added needs investigation, and then so this was. Yes, we have discussed this one. Was about layers, or being able to identify if there's components. And the example given is if you pull PHP and it's got, or Composer and it's got PHP in there as well, for example.
I think the gist of this one is if we can figure out a way to go from a layer hash to an appropriate tag, we could find a path forward, but nobody's figured that out yet.
Well, hold up. So at the very, very bottom, the last one, Docker docs build attestations. This is the one that I was like, I need to go look into. I'm saying when you're opting into like -- SBOM and -- provenance, like attestation attached to images as manifest in the image index. That's good news. that means with what we pulled down, from what we pulled down, we have either a reference or we have the SBOM in question already, which is awesome. I mean, again, if built with dash SBOM true dash provenance true with build X, but I think that's the default for the Docker Hub base images.
Yeah, all the ones that they publish are done through this, and this checks. There was a discussion that Josh Bresser's had recently with people about what are SBOMs useful for, and finding the base layer of an image has been like a hard topic for 2 or 3 years or so, where people want this, but they have to go back and jump through a lot of hoops. So this might be like a good pull request of like, hey, if this is done on the base images that Docker build, then this is a great way to identify the base layer and merge vulnerability scanning. Or most people want to use it to like basically subtract the software from the base image from their final output, so you can have like an SBOM that is everything besides position 0 of the thing that was built into it from the get-go. So that's kind of cool.
Yeah, I don't know. I think 2 gives us a partial path here, which is awesome.
Nice. So is this ready as well then?
Specifically for Docker official images and maybe some other things that happen to do the same thing.
Yeah, well, it would be that, and it would be anybody who's doing builds. So BuildX is, I believe, like what they're using by default now. And so now it's just, are they doing dash SBOM 2 dash attestation true? And you're right. Like, this is a subset of the universe. It's not going to solve the whole universe. So it's not like we've solved it for OCI. We've solved it for a subset of that universe.
Can you tell when you is there metadata on the container when you grab it that you can tell whether it was built with SBOM true, or do you have to just like poke into it?
I don't think so, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think it would just be manifest in the metadata layer. Like if the stuff exists in the index or not, then you'll know if it was built with that or not.
So, nice. Sorry to answer the question. Like, it's not ready. It needs investigation is the correct label.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about it anymore. Like the group of us, we just need someone that can like run it down and build a prototype of pulling it out.
Nice. That was the last one I had on the list. Are there any that anyone else has that I don't think. I think this was the list I was pulling from. And we've spoken about most of them. That one, all the ones that were older. Oh, that was the one that we probably. I don't know if we fully discussed this one.
I had this one, and I had one more after this that we could talk about as well. So the gist of this is that when specifically in the Python cataloger, we parse the wheel and egg metadata. The wheel and egg specification for Python has a field called license : and the value by the package authors when you're installing one can usually just be like the SPDX ID of Alan. You're going to scroll forever. That license is huge.
Yeah, I'm trying to prove a point.
The ID, the value is normally like an ID, like an SPDX identifier, or my fake license that I made up. Please use my software, right? For NumPy, the authors did a very cool thing, but also a very annoying thing, where the cool thing is that it's the full license text for the value, and it shows the license has every package that NumPy consumes itself, as well as the license for that. So you can extract, I think at the end of that license, you can extract like 15 to 20 license IDs from it. That's the whole license tree of NumPy. The annoying thing is that we normally use this field just to identify the license for a single package, not this entire tree in formalized license text. The user of this issue suggested that we just do dash new line and rip it off the top. My comment, if you go to the bottom, says that's probably not the way that we're going to go for this, but it still needs discussion of how do we approach values like this that enter the SBOM, where we just, because of the way we're cataloging things, will paste the whole license text. Do we ignore it? Do we add like a new type of license when we detect really huge byte blobs like this and say, this is complex, right? We're giving you all the information possible, but we're not gonna to run this into like an AI model and rip every potential license value from this and build all the subset objects from that. Like it's a little complex, and we're kind of throwing it over the fence by just saying user deal with this huge value. But that's why I put Needs discussion on it.
The Debian, like, so there's a little bit of precedent. I don't think it overlaps that much, but I'll mention it anyway. So the Debian cataloger, so like Debian packages, they have like copyright file, and that copyright file can just be like a whole concatenated list of licenses and full license text. And so that cataloger specifically goes in and like tries to find the beginning of each license and like rips out where it thinks it started to declare it. It's not perfect though, and so we run into the same things that's being described on this issue, where it's like, whoops, we pulled out like what is like the beginning of like the start of the license and not like an identifier. And so one reason for bringing it up is like we have something that might have already been implemented over there that could apply over here, but honestly it's probably the other way around. It's like, hey, whenever we do find something over on this particular issue, let's not forget about the Debian one that might help over there too.
Yeah, I was looking at the Debian one recently because there's also there are some licenses like the NVIDIA license where they show all of like the core sub packages with the licenses that are attributed to it. Like if you install the CUDA tools on Debian, you just get this novel of a license file at that copyright path that Alan had on his screen just now. And yeah, I mean, to echo what Alex said, there isn't a great way to. The one side of the fence is we try to parse these like flat files and we try and get as much information in a better digestive form and we miss some things, or we give the full contents because we don't have access to the source after the fact, and it's just the value that users will have to parse later and figure out how to deal with themselves. I'm on the side of I want all of our data to be useful. I don't really care about the aesthetically pleasingness of a document because at the end of the day, they're blobs of bytes that need to be learned how to be parsed by machines. So that's like, yeah, I get that it's kind of ugly. This is a very long line, the license text, but I also understand that it's the most useful thing we could provide, barring trying to parse it, getting it wrong, and not having a couple licenses in there and saying that that's the truth. So that's why I'm stuck.
There might be a path here in terms of like the core license model we update to allow, because like right now we have like license value, and that like implicitly means like the identifier, the name, etc. And like, so SPDX has support for like full license text, and so it's really not all that out of bounds to say like in our core license object support full text licenses there, or we can decide to put it in like another section, but like I'll just say for now, like on the package, the license, the package license core object. And so we would have value, and that would be still reserved for name, ID, that kind of stuff. But it would, but we would need to identify when full text has been provided and like not put it into value. It would go into that full text field, this new field that doesn't exist yet.
I'm game for that, because that's not a breaking change. It's just adding and growing the model and just like building more specificity to like the use of the fields. So that sounds good.
I mean, it's someone could argue that it is breaking because like we're semantically changing what today's behavior of value is in some cases. I think I would argue that we're just fixing undefined behavior. Like the intention was that value is ID and name, and technically we're breaking by semantically changing that such that like what this full license text today there now you now have to look in another field. I think it's worth fixing before having to wait for like Syft 2.0, for instance. So it's breaking behavior, but it's technically fixing undefined behaviors is a better way to put it, fixing a bug.
Oh yeah, so, I'm game for that explanation. You won't get me arguing the other way. I think, was there another question too that our audience member had, Alan? Besides, because I think, Keith, do you have any thoughts on this at all, or do we move on from the license talk?
I had one general question, which was, is this something that like the license classifier we use is able to pick up multiple licenses in this one blob, or is that not something it's capable of?
It doesn't do that. No, unfortunately, like that's trained
not
on
yet.
Not yet. That's true. Yeah, we could train it on complex cases that have multiple licenses from sub packages in there, but it's trained on specific like license texts that are one-to-one.
I mean,
Right, this kind of puts on
I feel like it's kind of a two-pass thing. Like the first pass is like separate the bodies of text into like licensed candidates, and then feed that into the existing classifier today, with the risk that like we've accidentally split a license in half.
Yeah, and it gives us a garbled answer. It's like, I think this is Apache when you fed it like BSD and Apache on like half one and half the other.
Yeah. But I mean, that prevents us from having to pull in like a more complicated model or more sophisticated methods. It could just be like we try partitioning first, and then we use existing models. So
yeah,
I guess the only other question that I had was if, like in this particular case, it sounds so they're putting in a bunch of different licenses for a bunch of different dependencies. Are those dependencies like embedded in the thing that we're identifying as a package, or are they somewhere else and it just happens to be the license text for a bunch of things is all together? Do we know?
So that's a great question. Yeah, it depends on I don't know for every single package. I don't know the answer. I know that NumPy ships with some of those packages because it uses them as part of its like general library function. So yes, those licenses and those packages would exist in another spot, and they might be like single one-to-one where it's like package to license. But some of them might just be NumPy used these packages in the course of its development, and we want to cover all of our bases and put it here along with the license that was used. And those packages and those source licenses don't exist at the time of analysis. So it's a mixed bag.
Gotcha. Okay, yeah, then I guess like I will just say I agree with everything that's been said.
Sweet. We have 10 minutes, and there was another question that Henry had, which was, they said, if there's still time, it'd be nice if we could answer the question if Syft picks up SBOMs in directories / Git repos.
We have an SBOM cataloger. The SBOM cataloger was on by default before Syft 1.0. And we found enough users that found that behavior confusing, and rightly so after talking directly with them. So we ended up turning off the SBOM cataloger by default. So if you just run Syft no configuration, the SBOM cataloger is off. Thus, we do not pick up on any SBOMs in directories and container images, etc. And unless somebody with Syft configurations specifically enables the SBOM cataloger. This is probably coming back in some limited fashion, not the one that probably you're talking about, Henry. Like this is so like the Bitnami discussion we just skipped over. Like the conclusion where there was to basically add a new cataloger that subsumes like the SBOM cataloger in very niche cases specific for Bitnami. Same thing for probably GitLab. They have their own manifest file. In a similar sense, we would probably make a bespoke cataloger just for GitLab, but like leverages the SBOM cataloger, but like it wouldn't enable it for all those general cases. So yeah, I don't think we have a good answer in terms of like being able to turn on the SBOM cataloger by default for users. Like it's been more problematic than than we want it to be. So yeah, that's my answer.
Sweet. Feel free to ask any more questions, Henry. You're most welcome. We just had a conversation in chat about the fact that Henry said they miss being in the Zoom chat with us, and there's no objection to people joining us here while we're doing this. We could have people in here contributing to the conversation. It might save time rather than typing as well. So let's figure that out, and how we share the link, and from next week, if we want people to join us and either watch or throw tomatoes or give their 2 cents opinions on the stuff we're reviewing, then that's like super helpful, I think. Cool. So what's next? We've got a few minutes. Do we want to try some bugs from the bug randomizer?
Roll the dice.
Spin the wheel.
Spin the wheel. Okay.
Roll the dice, spin the wheel.
Yeah. Do you want to... I'm going to kill that because that is not going to download in time. Do you want to randomly pick a repo, or is a particular repo you would like to focus on?
Give me a good Syft one.
A Syft one, okay. If I can type. Bob, right. Those that needs discussion. Randomizer. Ooh, false positives.
1467.
I'll pop it in the chat. Bob, there we go. I said Syft, and I picked a Grype one. I think there might be a bug in my script.
Might be, but that's okay. I'm going after this one right now.
Oh, I see why. Yes, I know why. I'll have to fix that. Grype's reporting a couple of CVEs which describe being found on new experimental process-based permissions in Node 20. But it's also reporting it in other versions, which don't have this feature. Okay. Can we reproduce this with latest Grype? Is everyone running the latest Grype?
Yes.
I assume so. Ooh, 79.3. Isn't it 0.4 now? Oof. That looks bad, doesn't it?
I ran it from main. And I ran it from main. For node 18 Alpine, no vulnerabilities are found. And for node 16.20, the binaries are found. So it looks like this has gone away as of recently. Someone else can confirm, but
interesting. Was there any further?
Yeah, so I didn't use the latest Grype. I used literally tip of development.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But he expects it for 16.20.2. He expects the vulnerability to exist for that one. And for 18 Alpine, he does not expect.
And which one was it? 32003.
I can follow up with a comment just saying this doesn't show up anymore.
Sweet. That was easy. Should we pick one more before bedtime? Or where is it? Over here. Let's do it again. Oh, this one's in Quill.
Oh, this is an interesting one. Oh, wait, no, this is not what I'm thinking of. Sorry.
Well, 370.
I have seen a couple of interesting Quill ones. We could go off piste and go and find an interesting one in Quill if you know you have one. I've seen a couple, but
interesting.
No, it was something else that I was thinking of.
Okay.
Oh. Yeah, there is a basic assumption that the LC code signature block is last. So, and he's reporting that that's not always the case. And
it's
just
non-deterministic, right?
Yeah, I mean, just like the. Did he just talk about the loader? Okay, I don't think he's talking explicitly about the loader. So just like the high level, what's where in the binary for Quill and why it's important for when you're signing a binary. There's the binary in question has some loaders at the very top in the ELF header, or sorry, not the ELF, in the Darwin header, and usually one of them is pointing to what's going to be the last segment at the end of the binary. Whenever you sign a binary, you build it first, you have the binary, and then the signature goes at the very end. But you have to put in the loader in the very front that says, "Hey, go to the end. There's an extra." That's where the signature payload is going to be. I think everything in Quill is assuming that when you're signing, like the last thing is going to be the LC code signature, and that's one assumption. The other assumption is that there is enough room to write a new loader command in like the header at the very front, because we don't want to rewrite the whole binary, like all those offsets to all the sections. We just want to like take like whatever null spaces in the header for where the loaders are defined and just like use up a little more of it to describe an extra signature block at the very bottom. So it looks like one of those two assumptions is wrong. And I'm kind of curious as to the details here, but I don't know. I don't know if we can really click on it like in the gardening session.
No, for sure. But it's certainly, I think there's a few open issues, some of which are gnarly but probably tractable, like this one. And then there's some other interesting ones relating to like timeouts and things like that when Apple takes too long to sign the binaries, and the people's jobs fail and that kind of stuff. I wonder if at some point we should do a session which is like focused just on one particular tool, like Quill or something. Might be interesting.
Though at the same time, like on your screen at the very top, there is one that says needs discussion for Quill. And Keith, maybe this is the one you're talking about.
Yeah, this is the one I'm talking about. This is the gist of this one is our repositories with LFS. For some reason, Go is calculating the checksum differently on ARM Mac. And
you did foreshadow this, I forgot.
Yeah, and I don't really know. I mean, there's a solution of, hey, get rid of the LFS, but like I don't think this is a pressing issue to fix, but it's a little bit of an interesting thing that like Go is kind of has this small issue.
Yeah, this is interesting. Like I can kind of see how I see some connective tissue between like the things at play here. Like the H1 digest is the digest of what's in the source archive, so which is like just the repo. But like I think the default is that like nothing LFS is there in these archives. And I guess somehow for our Mac ARM, like, it is including them. So like I think like one debug path here is to try to get a hold of the archive being used to do the H1 digest. And I think there is a way to do that with GoGet. You could, I think there's a flag to say please, or no, there is a path, but you don't need a flag. It's just you do a GoGet on two different boxes, and your GoMod cache should be updated, and you should be able to go on your two boxes and see like, hey, what's one of these things is not like the other, right? And that should kind of start pointing a clue.
Yeah, I mean the other thing, it might be a red herring, and it could be something about this person's configuration. Maybe they have some Git global flags set or something that make it happen. But the only thing I could really figure out that like was related to why this person was seeing a problem was that both of these repos are using LFS, which is kind of not something we use in most of the other repos.
I hear you.
But I also couldn't really reproduce it because I don't have an ARM Mac, and it worked fine for me with my setup here.
I have a couple of ARM Macs, and we can figure this out offline. But I'm happy to let you have SSH access to one of them if you want to, poke around and do whatever. Yeah, not that kind of poking around, but yeah. Sweet.
Oh, cool.
Oh, I'm glad we got to that. Thanks, Keith. I appreciate that. So, I think we're done for today because we've been here an hour, and I think that's about long enough for anyone to watch our faces.
And now, Alan, you were saying right before this, was your suggestion that like we keep like put guards up within a gardening session such that like we're doing like one tool within a gardening session. Is that what you said before? I started
an
on
option.
this last issue.
It's certainly an option. I mean, we could start a conversation on Discourse and just say, hey, what should we do? Is there any way we could do something different that people would be interested in? I suspect that, a lot of people would say, I'm only interested in Grype, or I'm only interested in Syft. So please do focus on that. But I think there's, potential for us to have a session about something else. It doesn't necessarily have to take this slot. We could do another one, like the Friday session or something. It doesn't necessarily have to be everyone. Like, for example, Chris might just want to do a bit of quilling or whatever we're going to call it. I don't know. Shall I start a conversation on the Discourse and then we'll figure it out?
Yeah, game.
Sure.
Yes. So, yes, exactly. Henry points out, I only use Syft and Grype. That's a cool tool, but I only use Syft and Grype. And so, it might be that we just keep this one and then just have ad hoc ones at other times, maybe. I don't know. Let's have a conversation on the Discourse. I'll start a thread a little bit later. Sweet. Okay. Thank you, everyone. Thank you to the people in the chat. Thank you, Henry. It's been much appreciated. And I love doing this kind of stuff because I learn loads every single time. And for those people who are watching, you can find out everything you need to know about Anchor over at anchor.com, and all our open source stuff is at anchor.com/open source. And obviously, it's all on GitHub. You just go to github.com/anchor. And we also have our community Discourse. There's a handy short link to this. If you go to anchor.com, if you can type /discourse, it'll take you straight there. I created that little cheeky link to make it easier for us to get there. We'll hang out here a little bit more than we were because over the period of August, we're going to be migrating away from Slack onto Discourse. So you'll see more stuff going on here. Anything else before we close off? 2 thumbs up. Love it. Sweet. Well, thanks, everyone, and see you all again very soon. Ta-ta.
Thank you.
Cheers.